Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope you're all doing really well. Or welcome if you're new to my channel. If you are, my name is Jasmine and I really appreciate you stopping by. So today I'm going to be filming another one of my 5 book recommendations within a certain genre or theme videos that I do here on my channel. And I thought it was about time that I got on with doing a literary fiction version of this video. Because as you all probably know, literary fiction is my favourite thing to read. And so I've compiled a list of 5 literary fiction books that I absolutely love. And I've tried to kind of include a mix in this video. So if you already read a lot of literary fiction, then hopefully there'll be something on this list that sparks your interest and is new to you. And if you don't read literary fiction, but you're interested in it, then there should be something on this list that will work as an introduction into literary fiction as well. As a quick aside, before we jump in, I do just want to say that I think the topic of literary fiction could warrant a video in itself. So what literary fiction is and what different people think constitutes literary fiction is quite contentious, and lots of different people have lots of different definitions of literary fiction, and I think that's a very interesting and worthwhile discussion. And so I was kind of bouncing a few ideas around and thinking that I might make a discussion video on that at some point if people would be interested. So what I take literary fiction to be and what I think the parameters of literary fiction novels are, and also just whether we should have a literary fiction category at all. I think that's quite interesting. So if you would be interested in me attempting to make a discussion video on that kind of thing, then please be sure to let me know down below. So hopefully, without worrying about that kind of thing too much, let's just jump straight into my recommendations. So the first recommendation that I have is more of an author recommendation than actually a book recommendation, because I've read both of her novels and I think you can't really go wrong with whichever one you pick. And so that is Celeste Ng, and she has written Little Fires Everywhere and Everything I Never Told You. So I really wanted to start with recommending Celeste Ng because she is so popular right now, both on BookTube and off BookTube. And I do think she is worth all the hype she is getting. She is extremely popular and a lot of different people are talking about her, which I think is so brilliant. So not only people who read a lot of literary fiction are talking about her, but also people who don't tend to read a lot of literary fiction as well. So people who tend to have more kind of young adult based BookTube channels are also reading Celeste Ng, and I think that's fantastic. So both of the novels that I've read by Celeste Ng have quite a lot in common. So Celeste Ng seems to focus primarily on family relationships and the dynamics that can occur in families and the ways that they can change and be put under strain, which is incredibly interesting. I love reading books about family relationships. And both of the novels are also set in either recent or modern day America, and they both include discussions of racism and cultural identity as well, because both novels have Chinese American families in them. So what Celeste Ng does so well is looking at these family relationships. She's so perceptive and insightful at looking at all these different families. And I think that no matter where your family is from, you will probably relate to some of the different family dynamics that are going on in these novels. I certainly did. So I think Celeste Ng is a brilliant place to start if you haven't read much literary fiction before. Her novels are really perceptive and really insightful, but they also have really entertaining storylines. So I think she's just accessible and overall really brilliant. That isn't to say though that if you do read quite a lot of literary fiction, Celeste Ng might not be for you. I think she is. I think her novels are brilliant and I was really impressed by them. So definitely, whoever you are, just go out and check her out. Just pick up whichever novel strikes your fancy more. They're both great. Next, I'm going to recommend for you A Spool of Blue Thread by Anne Tyler. So I don't actually have any of the physical copies of these books that I'm recommending here with me. I forgot to say that at the beginning of the video. Because I am home for Easter at the moment, all of these books are back at my uni house. And so today we're just going to have to put up with me inserting the pictures. Sorry. So this novel is set throughout the 1900s and into the 21st century in Baltimore in America. And we follow the lives of the members of the Whitshank family across 4 different generations, I believe, right from when Abby Whitshank fell in love with Red in the 1950s. This is just such a lovely, sunny novel that is very quiet and understated literary fiction. So similar to Celeste Ng, Anne Tyler focuses in on families and basically just normal everyday people living their normal everyday lives. So this novel is extremely observant, and that seems to be the main focus of the novel. So there's very little plot and it's very slow paced. She's mainly just focusing on these families and offering an insight into their lives. I've heard that this is quite typical of Anne Tyler's writing, and it certainly was in A Patchwork Planet, which is another novel that I read by her recently and absolutely loved. She just writes in a very careful and quiet way that's extremely insightful, and her writing is just quite simple and elegant, and it just makes for such a beautiful reading experience. So if you haven't read anything by Anne Tyler yet, then I really would urge you to. I think she's a wonderful writer. Next, I'm going to recommend Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. So this is literary fiction that is much more speculative and socially critical, and definitely has some philosophical aspects as well. So this novel is set in a dark and skewed version of contemporary England, and we follow our protagonist Cathy as she reflects on her childhood, where she was brought up in a seemingly idyllic boarding school, where all the children were kind of brought up in the boarding school for some kind of purpose, but we don't actually know what this is until quite far along in the novel. So you really don't want to know much more than that when you go into reading this novel, because one of the main strengths of the novel is the thought-provoking themes that it kind of brings up, and you want to kind of come across those and mull them over while you're reading the novel. So this novel is not plot-focused at all. I wouldn't go into this expecting a kind of thriller dystopian style novel, because that is not what you'll get, but it is extremely thought-provoking and brilliantly crafted. And I would recommend this to anyone, even if you don't read much literary fiction. I think Kazuo Ishiguro is such a fantastic writer, and I think so many different people would enjoy this novel. Next, I'm going to recommend for you The Lesser Bohemians by Emma McBride. So this novel is set in the 1990s and follows our protagonist, who is around 18 years old, I believe, when she moves to London to study drama, and she falls in love with a much older actor than herself. So this novel, as is typical of Emma McBride in her other novels, I believe, really focuses on experimental writing style. So Emma McBride defies all kind of grammatical rules and writes this novel in a kind of free-flowing and stream of consciousness style. And this really allows you an insight into the protagonist's mind. So the protagonist experiences first love in this novel and heartbreak, and she's often drunk or high on drugs. And this kind of writing style really allows you to experience the chaos and the confusion that the protagonist is experiencing. I also found the writing really made the setting come alive as well. So I thought the free-flowing writing really mirrored 1990s London and the bars that the characters found themselves in, and even while they were studying at university or just at their flat. I just found the writing really made all this stuff come alive even more. And I'm not sure how Emma McBride did this, but I stand by the fact that she did. I thought The Lesser Bohemians was a brilliant piece of writing, and I would highly recommend it to you if you're looking for some literary fiction that really pushes boundaries in terms of writing and will offer you a really unique reading experience. And finally, I'm going to recommend for you The Muse by Jessie Burton. So this is a literary fiction novel which is much more plot driven. So for those of you who want more of a visible storyline, hopefully this one will be good for you. And I myself really enjoyed following the plot in this one. So this novel is made up of two storylines. One of the storylines being in 1960s London, where we follow Odell, who has recently moved from Trinidad and Tobago to London, and she gets a job in a gallery. And here she meets Marjorie Quick, who she becomes good friends with. And a painting comes into the gallery that there's some kind of mystery surrounding. And then the other storyline is set in the 1930s in rural Spain, where this painting kind of came about. So this might sound like a bit of an odd storyline. It did to me. It didn't necessarily grab me as a plot, and I don't really have an interest in art in books that much. But just believe me, the story is really, really brilliant, and it will definitely have you hooked as you are reading. So this novel, I found, has a really lovely balance between following the plot and the two different storylines, but also really getting to know some really unique and complex characters and seeing some kind of universal themes that affect many of the different characters, no matter where they are in the world or what time they're living in. Overall, this is just such a fun novel that I would recommend to anyone, really. I really enjoyed my reading experience of it last year. But I would say, if you are going to pick it up, then definitely wait till summer to pick it up, because I think that was the perfect time to read it. So those are 5 of my literary fiction recommendations for you. I really hope you enjoyed it and something struck your fancy. Maybe at some point I'll be back with a part 2 of this video as well, because I have so many different literary fiction books to talk about. If you have read any of the novels that I talked about here, please be sure to let me know what you thought of them. Did we agree? Did we disagree? And also, if you just have any general literary fiction recommendations for me, then please be sure to let me know down below. So that's all for today. I hope you're all doing really well and are all having really nice weeks, and I'll see you next Wednesday with my next video. Bye!